think it was mentioned maybe right before the meeting started. We moved in remote instruction in 10 days, and we did it well. We took advantage of an opportunity to serve some of those students whose jobs were being pulled in the late spring by creating a one-year master's program in business analytics. And we were on the very front end at this meeting, I guess last April. You were on the very front end of our plan to do that, which we did in 3 weeks, and with the explicit order to spend $0, because obviously we were locking down all spending at the university at that time. So we had to be really, really creative from a marketing perspective. And we ended up yielding over 50 students in that inaugural cohort. And we'll talk about what we did and why we did it, but just an amazing display of innovation. And only a culture as strong as ours could have pulled that off in record time. And then a lot of events to build community, including virtual events. It's hard to build culture when you're not together, but we're trying, and we're not losing sight or focus on it. Capital, we all celebrated the opening of the Hayes Business Commons. Most of you haven't seen it yet because it was completed during the COVID lockdown, and we'll have a proper ribbon cutting whenever the world allows. But the renovated and expanded LKCM, Center for Financial Studies, the entirety of the first floor of Tandy Hall has been brought back to life in a way that's very consistent with the Hayes and Sumner Hall and Shattuck Auditorium complexes that we opened in January. A beautiful renovation and such a gift for our finance students. And then we've been really creative on the budget side. We'll have to continue to be creative, but we were able to take the early year budget cuts, which aren't all the budget cuts, but the first round of budget cuts, without having to negatively impact any of our personnel or slow down anything our academic departments are doing. And so there are a lot of people to thank on that one. But again, this is business school, right? We're trained to solve business problems, and thank goodness we were, because we've had to lean into that acumen quite a bit. And then all that's going on, turns out that we're chipping away at not being the best kept secret in business education. Our academic profile is rising. We went up in both the MBA, which is really still the lodestar ranking for business schools, from 61 to 56, and then our disappointing undergraduate ranking, which we talked about a year ago this meeting, when we had fallen to 90. We're starting to chip away at that again and move to 81, and that undergraduate ranking is 100% based upon peer perception, what other deans at other business schools think about Neeley. So we're working hard on that. Our amazing EMBA went up from 18 to 13 and that's in the world. Oil and gas investor debuted their energy MBA rankings, and we were number 2 in the country as well. So lots of things going on there. We'll talk later about we're lifting our game from an external awareness perspective. We did an RFP and consolidated. We had 5 or 6 different agency agreements with different ad firms and marketers that we were trying to just get our purples to match. And so we needed to bring that in, and we did an RFP and selected a top-notch national level company, Barclay REI, that actually focuses on top 50 business schools. So, and then great media coverage this year, which I think we have some charts on that we can punctuate later in the fall. Bill?
All right. Thanks, Daniel. And it's great to see everybody. I always enjoy these meetings. As Daniel has said a little bit, this summer was like any other in my 39-year history. The changes we had to go through were truly staggering. 1 week before spring break, it started when New York started exploding with the COVID, and we realized we were going to have to go online. And Vinnie, as you said, we had 2 weeks. We had an expanded spring break, and we had to get everybody online in the spring. We did it. I was so proud of our faculty and staff for making that change. And then we were hoping by April that we were back in the class in the fall. By late April, we knew we weren't going to be back in the classroom the normal way in the fall. The university came up with the plan to every college had to come up with a detailed plan of how they would treat education in the fall. And there were 3 drafts that were due during the summer. In the end, we put a 120-page paper together across all dimensions of Neeley, and it went through stages. First thing that we did was put what we called e-trainers together, and every college did this. We had 7 people who were assigned just to help all faculty go through training and to try to readdress their classes. The university required every faculty member, including adjuncts, which was truly amazing for these adjuncts, that they would go through this. 12 hours of training on how to teach online. And I'm very proud to say every single professor in the Neeley School went through the training, including all the adjuncts. These e-trainers continued to help these people as we started thinking about how we were going to change our classes, what we were going to do. We put together groups to think about different aspects. Beata Jones became what we called our Uber e-trainer. She was in charge of the e-trainers and helping every faculty member change their course. So you think about how many faculty we have in the Neeley School, particularly with adjuncts. Every faculty member had to go through and realign their course for the fall that was coming up. And this took considerable time. And then you get into undergraduate education, and Hetty and Lynn and all of their staff had to think about how are we going to deliver advising, how are we going to deliver placement, and they had to get specific plans on every aspect of what they were doing, and so that we were ready to go in the fall. And then David Allen and Ann Rooney and all the graduate programming did the same thing at their level. And then at that point, we had to figure out, all right, about facilities. Do we have enough classroom that we can socially distance people? And the reality was, no, we don't. When you have to do 6 feet apart, then your classrooms, you can figure you can only handle less than 50% of a normal class. And we didn't have the classrooms to handle all this. Mark Muller did a great job of our scheduling, trying to work with us to get all the changes in the rooms. We had to put new microphones in every room so that we could hear online. Chuck Miller and his team did a fantastic job of getting all the technology ready. This was not a simple process to make every room in Neeley, even though it's a new building, ready to roll for online. And then after we got started, we put a plan together at the end saying we're going to assess how we're doing after week 1. I asked all the department chairs to talk to their faculty on a Friday of the first week and say, how did the week go? Where are the problems? The DCC met Monday to go through all these issues. We made changes quickly, and then we did the same process in week 2 in that Friday. How did week 2 go? Where are the problems? Did we address some of the things that were going on? And we saw by the end of week 2, we were actually making very good progress. And I think we realized at that point, we were going to get through the semester in pretty good shape. So just quickly summarizing all this, it was intense. We had a lot of things we had to change. We had all kinds of people that had to contribute to this to be ready for fall. And as I said before, I am very, very proud of what the Neeley School accomplished. Our students, and for those of you that have college kids, they're still getting an excellent education. We had half our classes online. We had half our classes in the classroom. And I think if you talk to the people who are strictly online, the delivery of the system that we have now after all the practice we did in the summer, I thought was very, very good. So Daniel, thanks for the time. And again, board members, thank you for all that you've done. And for all the Neeley staff and faculty on, thank you all for all the hard work.
Hey, Bill, it's Tom Maher. I've got a quick question for you. Of those half that were in the classroom, are some percentage of that class online and the other
That's
percentage?
A good question. It started actually with about probably 90% in the classroom. For instance, in my class, I've got a student who's in Vietnam. She couldn't get back in the country. I've got one in Croatia. So they were online. And then that first week, if you saw the news, we had a ton of COVID cases on campus, and we saw the in-class people decreasing pretty dramatically. Either they had to go through quarantine for being COVID, or they were around COVID and they had to go through quarantine. So by the end of the first week and end of the second week, you may have had half your class actually in the classroom and the other half were online. And let me tell you folks, that's very difficult to teach when you're trying to address the people in the class in front of you, and you've also got half or more that are online, and just trying to manage the screen plus the classroom, stressful and difficult. And we have given every faculty member that's teaching online and in classroom, but has a lot of online component, we've given them a student to help them manage the class so that they're watching the online part and telling the professor, so-and-so has a question for you.
Suite of other programs where growth is an important component of what we're trying to accomplish with those. And so you can see there we have the professional MBA, which is our evening working professional program. The energy and the healthcare are offshoots of that program that are more industry focused. And we have an MS supply chain that also has a certificate program that's relatively new that goes along with that. And I'll hold out the business analytics one for a minute. So all of those are our ongoing programs. We have some growth there. One of the innovations for us that we did there is we generally have only let students enter in the fall because we try to have such a strong orientation, socialization, cohort-based entry for those students. But we experimented with a spring entry this past year, and we got in a good group of students, and it did not seem to cannibalize in any way our fall entries as well. So that enabled us to grow a little bit from that perspective. Our energy MBA program is doing fantastic, and our healthcare MBA program is relatively new. This is the third year that we've had a class. It's small. We'd like to grow that one a little bit. We're working right now with the med school, who now that they have pulled in a couple of classes, they are ready to be talking with us about some potential partnerships there, perhaps a joint healthcare MBA and MD degree, and some other things that we're experimenting with those folks. So, Ron asked a question earlier about what are we doing looking forward as we deal with this crisis situation, and this is a good example that Daniel was alluding to. Prior to COVID, one of the challenges that we were facing with these programs focused on working professionals is how can we use technology to provide them a little bit of flexibility so that maybe they don't always have to drive across the Metroplex to campus 2 or 3 nights a week. And this is especially important in our energy MBA program, where the folks interested in that program are sitting in Midland, Texas, and sitting in Houston, and sitting in Oklahoma, actually. So how can we use the technology to do that? Well, so one silver lining coming out of this is that now 100% of the Neeley faculty have been trained for hybrid, remote, and online variations of teaching, and have prepped their classes for this type of modality and type of delivery. So we think that that's going to be a helpful thing for us as we're trying to be strategic now about, okay, there are some things that we really can't wait to get back in person for, but there are some things that hopefully we'll be actually able to use the technology and continue to use that going forward. So just in those ongoing programs, a little over 26% growth, but the really fun one here is actually the MS in Business Analytics that Daniel referred to earlier. So this is a program that, in less than 8 weeks, we went from let's brainstorm about how we can do something to meet the need of the graduating seniors all across campus who are graduating into this horrible economic recession and job market, to seating more than 50 students in the classroom, starting up with, as Daniel likes to focus on, $0 in direct marketing spend. So that one has been really fun I know we have a reputation in higher ed for moving quite slowly, but this was an example of moving quite rapidly to go from 0 to 50 very quickly. And this one's fun because we knew that there was a demand for analytics work. We have already a bunch of faculty who have analytics expertise. And so to be able to capitalize and marry those two things has been fun. And the class that we recruited in, we do have a lot of Neeley students who went into it, but we also have a lot of students from all over campus. We have music and history and English majors, and we have some athletes, and we have some folks from other universities in the area who jumped into that program. So we're very excited about that one going forward. So that's a sense of the growth of the
very small historical context. TCU really began probably around the fall of 2017 to really provide some additional focus and structures around diversity, equity, and inclusion from a university perspective. And as part of that, they determined that a good opportunity would be to create roles within each college. And so in the spring of 2018, Dean Homer Erickson appointed me to a 3-year term as the college diversity advocate. And over the next year, I would say most of the work was done at a TCU institutional level. We had a lot of working committees and subcommittees, and a lot of it was really focused on things like hiring and a little bit on the student experience. Once Daniel came on board in 2019, we knew that this was going to be a huge focus for him. I actually was able to sit on the committee, the hiring committee for Daniel for the dean's position. And as soon as he got to campus, we started to work on putting together a pretty amazing committee in my view. It was really important for Daniel to have all 3 of the associate deans sitting on this committee, as well as members of each department. We also wanted to have faculty and staff, and we also wanted to have faculty at different levels, so tenured faculty and untenured faculty. Interesting, Bill Moncrief sent out the ask for this committee. We had more than 26 people raise their hand, which was much larger than we could accommodate. That being said, we are finding ways to integrate all of those folks into our work. I believe last year at this time, Bill mentioned some of the work that we started doing as a result of the committee, particularly really trying to understand some of the issues for our students. Fast forward the year, we continued to meet despite all of the challenges that we had, and we actually met a whole lot this summer. And where we landed was a pretty exciting plan. We did a lot of research that informs this plan. We are still working on some of that research. But I think our most important initiative is the newly formed Neeley Office of Inclusive Excellence. And as Daniel mentioned, Ann Tasby, who I'm delighted has accepted the leadership for this office, she's going to really walk you through the vision for this office. So Ann?
Thanks, Stacy. I am so excited to take on this role. It is so funny. I mean, to even have an opportunity to work in both of my passion areas. So one was teaching, which I've wanted to do since I was 5. And then secondly, this area of diversity, equity, inclusion. I mean, it's something I've been involved with for my entire career. And so to have it all come to a head here at TCU and be able to contribute in such a special way, I mean, I'm delighted. So I don't need to spend any time on the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion in terms of the research has shown that this is where we need to be if we want to compete in a global marketplace, and to really step it up, we needed to take some very deliberate action in this area. And so I'm excited to, first I want to thank you for your commitment. And if we go to the next slide, Gigi. I wanted to highlight for you some of our accomplishments since last fall. And so one is obviously our partnership with the National Association of Black Accountants. We launched a student chapter on campus. I function as the faculty advisor on that. Also, we launched our ACAP, or Accounting Career Awareness Summer Bridge program. The idea was to have students on campus in the summer, but obviously due to COVID, we were able to pivot and have a special virtual program And that came together within a few weeks. We were able to pull together a virtual program, and we had high school seniors participate, and we were able to offer scholarships to actually 3 new Horned Frogs. And so that was, again, made possible by this committee. So again, a hearty thank you on that. Next slide. So our programs, other programs that we've put in place that are thriving, and again, we want to thank this committee for, is our Suit Up Lead On program, where we provide professional dress for students that found that to be a barrier to entry into the Neeley School, as well as their progress from a career development standpoint and participation in the Neeley activities. So we thank you again for this committee. We mentioned it last fall, and you moved immediately, and we were able to execute. So that's exciting. Also, our Microsoft Office certification process program, where we provide funding for that in our roundtables with our students. They said that was also a barrier. Being able to help with that funding has been pivotal, because there were students where that actual requirement sits outside of the normal scholarships that our students are able to receive. So we were able to fill that gap with this program. So it's a need-based program where we provide the funding for that. So that's exciting and already on the move. Next, we were able to partner with, so I wasn't quite done with that one. Go back one more. Go back once for me, Gigi. Okay. So again, I'll just mention these last 3 in the interest of time. So our partnership with the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber, that has resulted in some MBA scholarships, which is exciting, and that's full tuition and fees. So that's great movement toward our goals of diversifying our representation at the MBA level. Also, we launched a collegiate partnership with the National Black MBA Association, Yay LaTanya, for facilitating that. So that's exciting. That just literally came together within the last week or two. And then, of course, we've already mentioned our mentoring circles that we have at the MBA level to partner our diverse MBA students with corporate leaders to help them move their career forward. So that's exciting. Next slide. Let's get into the strategy. What are we going to do? So the approach that we're taking to this is really from a high level standpoint. Step 1 is we need to attract more diverse students to TCU and attract and retain. So the question is, what are the tactics that we're going to put in place to make that happen? And so we said that we definitely want to coordinate with our admissions group to make sure that we're in lockstep and helping them with that process, because they own the external recruiting. But we also feel like, from a Neeley standpoint, we have an opportunity to do more deliberate partnership in the community, so that the Neeley name is actually affiliated with positive perceptions within the communities that we're trying to recruit from. And then the other key strategic point there is launching these summer bridge programs. So we mentioned the ACAP program, but we're also looking at a data analytics summer bridge program that's going to be coming down the pike in the future. There's other finance programs that are already in place. So we're looking at robustly, kind of supporting those programs and making sure that they have what they need to grow. The next phase is teaching. So from a teaching standpoint, that's where we'll focus on the diversity and equity and inclusion overlay in our curriculum. So we already have kind of a preliminary strategy around how we're going to do that. And we're also continuing the work to identify how we might add more in-depth opportunities for our students to create that cultural competency that's going to be necessary upon graduation. The next area is embrace. So from an embrace standpoint, that's all about how our students' perception of life at Neeley. So we thought we understood it, but then once we received some candid feedback from our students, we realized that we have a lot of work to do in this area. So part of our strategic focus is support of these diverse student programs and organizations. Also, creating a physical space for students to come together and have those collaboration points. So creating that physical office. Also tutoring programs. If you look at the data, it's easy to identify those classes that seem to be real hurdle classes from a diversity standpoint. And we're trying to put tutoring programs in place to undergird our students so that they can be more successful in those areas.